Good evening and welcome to the black hole. AI, artificial intelligence या मसनूई जहानत. It is a buzz term these days. Is it a tool to amplify human creativity or is it a substitute for human intelligence? और ये भी कि in a dystopian future कहीं ऐसा तो नहीं होगा कि machines या AI जो है वो दुनिया पर कब्ज़ा कर लें और हमें अपना ग़ुलाम या महकूम बना लें, जैसा कि आम तौर पे साइंस फिक्शन नॉवेल्स और मूवीज़ में हम देख रहे होते हैं. आज के सेशन में वी विल एक्सप्लोर बोथ द पावर ऑफ आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस एंड इट्स क्रिपलिंग limitations, and we are very honored to have Dr. Rafiq Mohammadi with us. आप डेटा साइंटिस्ट हैं एंड शिकागो बेस्ड एंटरप्रेन्योर हु co-founded iManage, और ये भी कि आप वन ऑफ पाकिस्तानी AI पायनियर्स में शामिल हैं. आज का सेशन जो है वो डॉक्टर परवेज़ हुडभॉय मॉडरेट कर रहे हैं. उनका हम बहुत शुक्रगुजार हैं कि उन्होंने हमारे लिए वक्त निकाला है. शिकागो में अर्ली मॉर्निंग है, यहाँ पे शाम है, और इसके बावजूद हम टेक्नोलॉजी की मदद से ये सेशन जो है जूम पर आज करेंगे. और आप सबकी आमद का बहुत शुक्रिया. एक और शुक्रिया तब बनेगा अगर आप अपने सेल फोन्स जो है वो काइंडली साइलेंट मोड पे कर दें. जब क्वेश्चन आंसर के लिए हाउस ओपन हो तो प्लीज़ रेज़ योर हैंड, और माइक्रोफोन अपने हाथों में आने के बाद आप अपना सवाल रखिएगा. प्लीज़ टू द पॉइंट रहिएगा, शॉर्ट रहिएगा, ताकि ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा दोस्त जो हैं वो गुफ्तगू में शरीक हो सकें. लेडीज़ एंड जेंटलमैन, नाउ वी विल स्टार्ट टुडेज सेशन. थैंक यू.
Thank you, Nair, for starting this off. Because this program is going to be watched in Chicago, in the United States, and Canada more generally, we're going to have this in English. Usually we have our programs in Urdu. Well, Pakistanis have been migrating to the United States now for 60, 70 years, and some have done very well for themselves. Some have started businesses. Those businesses could be Karyana stores, they could be B&Bs, they could be buying and selling gas stations, which is very lucrative actually in places like Dallas. But there are others who have gone into high technology. Very few, unfortunately, but there are some who have gone there and they have made a mark for themselves. We're going to be talking to Rafiq Mohammadi very soon. You'll see him. He started his career from St. Patrick's High School in Karachi, then went into NED College. It used to be a college in those days, now they call it a university. And then he traveled a path that you're going to hear of very soon. Now, this is a remarkable case of someone who is had a grounding in Pakistan, but has made it big in the United States. He runs this company called iManage, which has got about 1,000 employees or so. And so, without any further ado, I will let you see Rafiq Mohammadi. So, Rafiq, are you there? Can you hear me? Very soon your picture will be on the screen over here. If the yeah, you can hear me.
I hear you loud and clear, and thanks for the introduction.
Yes, can you hear me now? Good.
Yes, I can very clearly.
आवाज थोड़ी सी कट रही है.
Okay, let's see. Mike.
Your picture is clear, but your sound is not. Maybe your mic needs to be closer.
We will fix it. Pervez, Mike, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Okay, Rafiq, so I've given a very short introduction to where you started from and where you are now. But before we go anywhere, tell us a little bit about this company that you founded. You use large data. You have somehow made knowledge into a commodity which can be sold. Tell us a little bit what your company is about, because when I looked at its website, being untutored in this, I couldn't figure out how you managed to make so much money that you need 1,000 employees. So tell us a little bit about that. What you do with it?
There's Yes, very good question, Pervez. Let's get started. It'll take a minute or two to explain it, but it's actually a very, very simple explanation. I'm actually retired now. The company is 1,000 people. I finally retired after 27 years in the company last year. And just to make a minor correction for our friend Nayer, I have a bachelor's and master's in engineering, so I'm certainly not a doctor. I chose to do an MBA instead of a PhD. Now to your question. Dekhe Janab, I started the company in 1995, long time ago, right? 28 years ago. उस वक्त लोगों ने मुझे कहा कि we are adopting personal computers, है ना? Windows 95 was 95. और पर्सनल कंप्यूटर्स में जो है वो ड्राइव लेटर्स आप देखते हैं, C drive, D drive, E drive. These were very large law firms that approached me and said, the document collection that we have is not in the several hundred, but in the millions and the tens of millions going to hundreds of millions. अगर इस चीज को हमने C drive में डाला ना, तो सत्यानाश, right? Windows 95 could not do it. So we wrote a system based on really powerful technology. These things are called relational databases. आजकल आप sub databases use करते हैं. The relational word has disappeared. और उस वक्त 1995 was when Microsoft introduced SQL Server. यहाँ बहुत सारे audience में लोग होंगे. They may be familiar with Microsoft SQL Server. So instead of using a file system like a C drive or a D drive, we actually built a system which was a combination of databases and servers in the background that could handle hundreds of millions of documents. Today, we are managing maybe about a third of the size of the internet or a fourth of the size of the internet in the amount of data that we handle. फिर जो है technology kept changing. Lekin Pervez Saab, just as you have dealt with problems in physics, we could do very little with natural language. जो documents के अंदर जो content है ना, we could do very little about it because the tools were not there, right? So we only managed the information around the document, जिसे हम कहते हैं metadata. इसकी author किया है, किसने last इस डॉक्यूमेंट को यूज किया, कब इस डॉक्यूमेंट को क्रिएट किया, इसके कितने रिविजन्स हैं, इसकी टॉपिक क्या है, टॉपिक वुड बी एंटर्ड बाय अ पर्सन. सो वी कुड ओनली मैनेज मेटाडेटा टिल अबाउट 2015. तो आप सोच लें 20 साल में we were never able to get inside the document. Then around 2015 technology started changing, and with artificial intelligence, it's called natural language processing. We could read into the document automatically. It was like having a robot reader. Or its reading के बाद, we could decide कि what were the paragraphs in terms of topics. उस topics में क्या entities हैं. So for instance, we could tell you that this particular contract, legal contract, इसकी jurisdiction जो है वो इंडियाना में है, और इंडियाना में फिर further specialization, it is in Marion County. So you can imagine that hundreds of millions of documents, a robot starts reading it, and the amount of knowledge that bubbles up from that is just unbelievable. You can guide people कि किस किस्म की document कहाँ है, उसकी precedence क्या है, how do you find the needle in the proverbial haystack? And that is the mission of iManage.
So were you actually developing this technology yourself, or were you taking advantage of already developed technology? In other words, were you more at the applications end or at the research and development end?
बहुत अच्छी बात है, Pervez. This is again a fascinating question. In 2015, there were no vendors that could help us. कि ये आप हमसे चीज ले लें, इसको license कर लें, and then you're good to go, right? So we actually built a data sciences team. यार आप सोचें 2015 में I was 55 years old, and I had to go back to school, and from very scratch. I went to school and learned AI. बहुत सारे courses लिए हैं. ultimately my journey took me through a certificate program at Stanford. We hired a team of people, but here is the complication. देखें, AI की स्टैक ऐसी होती है कि नीचे जो है वो आपकी एनवीडिया हार्डवेयर है, राइट, जिसे अतीक रजा साहब ने इसको काफी बात किया था लास्ट टाइम. उसके ऊपर जो फ्रेमवर्क्स जो है ना, दैट यूजेस द जीपीयू, इज मेड बाय कंपनीज लाइक गूगल एंड फेसबुक, right? And many other companies. Those frameworks are not solutions. They are simply programming tools that you can use. So हमने data sciences team बना के, we used those programming tools, and then we not only wrote the application, लेकिन हमारे 1 million users जो हैं online है. So we had to learn how to deploy the architecture on the cloud so that 1 million users could use it. This robotic reader, so that information would automatically bubble up to the fingertips of the users.
Okay, so was Google's search algorithm in existence at that time? Today we can go and search for anything on the net, and Google will do a list search and it'll come up with everything that falls into that category. Did it exist then, or did you have to, were you taking advantage of that at that time?
Paresh Saab, another fascinating question. I wish it was just you and me with a blackboard and a chalk, and I could write down some equations. देखिए जनाब, Google तो बहुत पुरानी सर्च एल्गोरिथम है, लेकिन परेश साहब, Google सर्च में एक बहुत ही क्रिटिकल फीचर ये है कि it keeps track of a graph, कि किसने किस पेज को यूज किया, right? और उसके अंदर कितने आउटबाउंड लिंक्स हैं, कितने इनबाउंड लिंक्स हैं. This system of referral, it's actually a graph. Graph बहुत सारी different sciences में use होते हैं, but they have a way of dealing with this graph, and they take full advantage of usage statistics. We don't have that at all. All we have is a bucket full of documents, and what we have to do is to open the document and read the document paragraph by paragraph by paragraph, to find out कि इसकी क्या topic है, what is it relating to, and what is it discussing. Those technologies became available in 2015, and 2017 is the dividing line in my career. In 2017 August, ये छोटी सी डिटेल है but बहुत important डिटेल है. 2017 August में एक seminal paper जो है Silicon Valley में पब्लिश हुआ, गूगल ने पब्लिश किया. उस पेपर को कहते हैं attention is all you need. Never mind it's an obscure reference. Attention is all you need. That paper revolutionized the process of dealing with natural language, English, German, Arabic, Chinese, because we finally began to deal with language statistically in a way that the results were very good. That is the dividing line in my career, that we went from just maintaining metadata about documents to actually being able to read the document automatically, extracting the information from it, organizing it, and then presenting it to users. जिस तरह आप ड्राफ्ट कर रहे हैं कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, आपको पता है कि this company is experiencing a lot of litigation. So we are able to figure out कि जब आपने इस कंपनी के साथ litigation किया, so what were the cases and what were the documents, right? And that is very helpful in the creation of new information. This is just a small example.
It's fascinating what you're saying. This is actually universal human grammar that Chomsky invented way back in the 1960s. Yes. And it's, at that time, that was purely abstract knowledge. Today, you are having computers understand human natural language because of all those developments 60, 70 years ago. Okay, so you now have a lot of customers. Yeah.
Can we double click in your last sentence just for 30 seconds and no more than that? Is that okay?
Sure, sure.
देखें यार, जब मैं age 55 पे पहुंचा ना, तो आपकी बात बिल्कुल सही है. जो Chomsky grammars were almost intractable for computers. तो मैं जो है वो बिल्कुल गिव अप कर दिया इस फील्ड को, कि ये Chomsky grammars हमारे ब्रेन के अंदर इतनी implicit है. ये और टॉपिक है, आप किसी बायोलॉजिस्ट को लेके आए कि हम लैंग्वेज को प्रोसेस करने के लिए इतने सेवरल मिलेनिया से हमारी जो है वो एवोल्यूशन हो रही है। तो मैंने ये सारी चीजें लेके जो है ना फेंक दिया कि computers will never be able to deal with the so-called contextual grammars, Chomsky grammars, right? कि ये चीज बहुत difficult है. What started happening, Pervez Sahib, and this could be a different topic with the different experts, that we finally figured out statistical ways of dealing with language. So, जो मैं कहता हूँ ना कि attention is all you need or natural language processing, this is all based on statistical analysis of language. तो ये computer जब language analyze करती है ना, तो it is an alien intelligence. It uses techniques जो हमारी brain बिल्कुल नहीं use करती है, and that is the fascinating thing that has happened in the last 10 years.
Okay,
let's keep going. Sorry for that.
I want to move away from the theory side because that's very, very, very complicated. But tell us a little bit about, give us an overview of artificial intelligence in general. It's the attempt by humans to make computers simulate human intelligence. And it has beginnings really from the very start, from the time when Turing came up with the Turing test, and there's much beyond that. Give us a bird's eye view of where artificial intelligence is and where it's going.
देखिए मैं जो है ना आपको व्यू देता हूँ from the standpoint of a plumber that works every day, right? So let's demystify artificial intelligence. इसमें बहुत सारी जो है वो myths जो है ना वो bake हो गई है narrative के अंदर. Artificial intelligence is simply put, what can you learn from data? So you have a lot of data. For instance, suppose एक example हम लेते हैं, we are trying to predict housing prices in Islamabad. ठीक है? कोई आदमी अपनी घर सेल कर रहा है, there's an artificial intelligence program that says कि आपकी property की worth इतनी है, right? So the way we do it is that we look at all previous transactions, tens of thousands of transactions that has happened previously. और उस transactions को जो है, we organize the data in it. कि where was the location of the house, right? कितने bedrooms थे, उधर जो है crime rate क्या है, what are the nearby schools, वो सारे data collect करके, then we have one variable which is the dependent variable that says कि price क्या है. Artificial intelligence is simply looking at that data and coming up with a function, right? Everybody knows what a function is, that says given the input, I can now predict what the output would be. So artificial intelligence for me as a practitioner is the process of learning from data, building a function, and applying that function to new data that arrives to do something useful, right? That is the definition. Now, human intelligence, just so we have talked about Chomsky and other people many times. Human intelligence is very different. It is about morality. It is about constraint. It is about empathy, Hannah. And so for me as a practitioner, artificial intelligence and human intelligence are two completely different things. And Pervez Sahib, I write code every day. जब ये meeting खत्म हो जाएगा ना, there's a few hours today I'll spend writing code. For me, human intelligence is a crown jewel, and we are light years away from building empathy, morality, constraint inside artificial intelligence programs. हम तो अब जो है बहुत ही इब्तदा हुआ है. We have long ways to go before we decipher the marvels of the human brain. आपकी शेर और शायरी, for instance, I can't do that inside a computer at all.
Okay, let me tell you of a little experiment that I did just before coming over here. I asked ChatGPT a question. Is Jesus the Son of God? And see, I can ask a question, okay? I'm not suggesting anything, but this is what Christians believe. Now, ChatGPT gives an answer to that this is what is believed by Christians, and gives a long answer. In the end, it says, it gives a disclaimer. There are people who believe in this and people who don't believe in this. It doesn't take a position on that. You can give it any question that relates to morality and it will give you ambiguous answers over there. That I've tried. Anyway, go ahead and tell us that in creating artificial intelligence for particular applications, what is it that people
Yes.
need to learn? So here is a room full of young people, several of whom have done
Yes.
computer science courses. And of course, now AI becomes part of computer science. And they need to know
Yes.
what is it that, what are the tools that you need for developing AI?
So बात ये है कि देखिए सबसे बड़ी important चीज in predicting whether you will be able to build a successful product or not, I'll answer the AI question in a second, इसकी आपकी domain knowledge क्या है, right? Is there something that you understand about a particular field that is very, very valuable? Suppose आपका काम ये है कि you are running a logistic company जो कि concrete जो है कराची में distribute करती है. Just making up an example to keep it real, right? आपके पास 100 या 200 या 300 trucks है all day long कराची सड़कों में जो है travel करती है to deliver concrete. अब पाकिस्तान में problem क्या है? Fuel prices are very expensive and going up, right? So कोई बंदा आपको कहता है that is watching, that is your dispatcher जिसके पास सारी knowledge है, कहता है कि यार ये trucks जो है ना they take very inefficient routes क्योंकि लोगों को पता नहीं होता है कि what is the most efficient route. So what we should do is to build an AI program that computes the optimum route. And when we do the optimum route, this is the amount of fuel saving that I will have per day, per month, per year, right? So it starts with domain knowledge. You have some knowledge of some process that you think can be executed more efficiently. Where AI helps is that you collect the data about the domain, you get an insight into what successful outcomes are, you let the AI program learn from the data, and then it is capable कि 8 बजे मेरी truck आज निकल रही है and we have to go to Defense Society from this location. But then what the AI program does is that as a result of the domain learning from the data, it is then able to make a prediction that says, okay, take this route. So for the young people, there are several steps that go in. If you just want to be an AI expert, then there are certain courses that you have to take, certain programming courses you have to take, and it is mathematically sophisticated. So you have to be prepared to invest. But once you have that knowledge, that will not necessarily translate into immediate commercial success. You have to work with people with domain knowledge, and that combination of AI and domain knowledge produces the interesting things that leads to commercial success.
And there are countless examples of this. Water management could be another example. Water is in such short supply over here, and the way it is used in agriculture. If we could figure out AI algorithms and get them implemented, that's a different question altogether. But okay, so now let's have a little bit about your personal journey into AI, starting from when you left NED.
ठीक है यार, we have the opportunity to now tell some jokes and completely stay away from theory. जनाब जो है मैं बंगाल से आया था कराची, and the only reason I am speaking in English is because मेरी उर्दू जो है उसे गुलाबी उर्दू कहते हैं कराची में, right? So I was lucky to get into St. Patrick's. St. Patrick's से मैं गया Government National College से गया NED. अब जो है we're talking 1978. आपको याद होगा शायद परवेज भाई के 1978 में there was political instability in Pakistan, and the schools were closed for long periods of time, right? 8 महीने तक जो है वो NED एक सेमेस्टर के बाद बंद हो गया था. एक दिन मेरे वालिद साहब घर जो है खाना खाने के लिए आए. Common practice in Pakistan. He was a businessman. 1 बजे जो आया, and he saw me with the people in the colony playing gilli danda on a road called Jubilee Road. वो कहते हैं ये क्या होगा आप लोगों का कि school is all closed और जो है हमें पता नहीं है school कब start होंगे and you're wasting all your time. So he was the one that pushed me कि बहुत सारे schools हैं US में and उस जमाने में शायद लोगों को याद नहीं होगा but the rupee to the dollar conversion was very favorable, Pervez bhai. It was less than 20 rupees to a dollar. So मेरे वालिद साहब ने कहा कि यार I will support you. I'll pay for the tuition. आप जो है वो find some place where your education can be on a more scheduled basis where you'll finish in 4 years. So मैं जी Chicago आ गया, University of Illinois in Chicago. And then of course it was 1978 December. It was very natural to select computer science क्योंकि उस जमाने में computers were the emerging technology और सारे newspapers वगैरह everywhere the discussion was how marvelous is this technology and what its beneficial implications will be on society. So it was relatively easy at that time to say that computer science is a good place to invest in.
Yes, and then you get your degree.
Then the miracle
then how
happened.
do you make it through into business? Ultimately, did you face any glass ceilings? It's said that in business it's not easy for people with our color of skin to go very high. I hear it all the time. What's been your experience with it?
यार मैं इतना stupid आदमी था when I started my first business at age 23, right? I did not really care about any of these things, right? वो देखो मैं college से graduate हुआ 1982. I became an expert in microprocessor programming. बहुत common चीज है आजकल. Then all I had was about $5,200 in savings. तो उस जमाने में IBM PCs introduced हुए थे with floppy drives and everything. I got a PC for $5,000, so $200 रुपए बच गए. All my savings got wiped out. And I became enamored of the concept that the 8088 processor inside that IBM PC with the floppy drives was so powerful that we could write business applications on it, right? Word processors were giant mini computers. Payroll systems were, again, programs of mini computers. I had enough knowledge at that point that this is such a useful thing that we should write business applications on it. And that's how my first company got started in 1983. I started building business applications on an IBM PC using a computer language that is no longer used. It's called Pascal. At that time, it was very, very popular. Yeah, of course, there are barriers to entry, but entrepreneurs are optimistic. I was so optimistic कि जो मैं काम कर रहा हूँ, उसकी इतनी ज़बरदस्त validity है कि I'll be able to find people. And that's how I practically, with about $5,000 is how I started my first company.
And then after that, you go to your... Then that company expands. Is that what became iManage?
So वो company जो है ना, Pervez साहब went on for 10 years, right? 1983 to 1993. I achieved some amount of maturity, and that particular company also served large law firms. उस जमाने में जो आजकल आप लोग जो है ना सिर्फ एक ही वर्ड प्रोसेसर यूज करते हैं, माइक्रोसॉफ्ट वर्ड. उस जमाने में बहुत सारे वर्ड प्रोसेसर्स थे, वर्ड परफेक्ट, Microsoft Word, IBM DisplayWrite, which was an application. So the business I started in 1983 was around doing automatic translation between word processing programs. So मैंने अपना document WordPerfect में लिखा, Pervez साहब जो है is using Microsoft Word, and I have to send him the document. The format translation program, which is actually a very sophisticated program, would do the translation and give him a document in Word, ताकि he could immediately open it and start editing it. By the time 1993 arrived, markets had consolidated Okay, markets had completely consolidated. So this need of translating between word processors vanished, right? This company had peak revenues of about $4 million, total number of employees, 15. And in 1993, that market came to a natural end. Khatam ho gaya, need khatam ho gaya. Lekin we had served our law firms so well that they had started buying PCs and उन्होंने कहा देखो यार हमारी ये problem ये है कि the C drive is fundamentally incapable of handling large amounts of document. So why don't you write a program which is document management on PCs? In 1993, Pervez Saab, the technology had changed completely. It had gone from programming in the C language to object-oriented programming to databases to TCP/IP or client-server programs. These are buzzwords, and I didn't know much of it. So I had to go back to school. I did my master's from 93 to 95. And when school ended in 95, I started my second company, iManage, which is the management, large-scale management of documents. So that is the story. For me, it's always about opportunity, validating the opportunity, making sure I have the knowledge to address that opportunity, not being shy about investing time into learning if necessary, and then building a product that customers find interesting. And that has been the story of my 40 plus years.
When the dot-com bubble burst, was it 2000?
Yes.
2000?
2000,
Yes.
2001, those were the two bad years.
What happened to you?
What happened to me? ये भी जो है वो बड़ी अच्छी interesting कहानी है. यार, we were an independent company. I had taken iManage public in 1999. ठीक है? 1999 November, we were a public company. सारे हमारे customers जो है वो non.com. We didn't have consumer businesses. We had बड़े-बड़े law firms, the top law firms in the United States as our customers. In 2001, when the bubble really burst, we had $40 million in cash in the bank from the proceeds of going public. But our market valuation was $30 million in the sense that people would not even give us $1 for the cash. So 2001 to 2004 were some very difficult years where we had to navigate and survive through that horrible macro event. But we did well. We did very well because we had real customers and real products, and we came out on top. 2004 is when I sold the company. We were acquired by another company, and that chain of acquisition continued until 2015 when I bought the company back from HP. So iManage is interesting. In 2015, iManage was inside HP, and I wrote to the CEO asking her to sell me the company with my co-founder, and they agreed. They said, we'll sell you that company. So we did what is called a leverage buyout, and we reacquired iManage from HP.
As we look into the future, we see that artificial intelligence, its manifold applications are going to become more and more important. Now,
yes.
I asked you this earlier, but you didn't. We didn't get to the essence of it. There are young people here in the audience, some who are very, very young. I mean, they're like 12 years, 14 years old.
Yes.
What is the kind of mathematics that they will need to know in order to become reasonably proficient at artificial intelligence? What other kinds of knowledge should they equip themselves with in order to have a future in this area?
Sorry for missing the essence of the question. I was trying to keep the discussion non-technical. Let's get deep into it, right? Deep into it without too much detail. देखें जनाब, आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस की डेप्थ में जाने के लिए जो है वो कुछ मुख्तलिफ सब्जेक्ट्स जो है ना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. Last time Pervez Bhai, when he was talking to Rafiq Mohammadi, who's a fascinating character, one of the statements was that conventional computer programming में discrete mathematics is very important है. लेकिन artificial intelligence is very different. सबसे important चीज artificial intelligence में है linear algebra. जो आप डेटा हैंडल करते हैं ना लार्ज स्केल में, that is all done on the basis of linear algebra. And within linear algebra, matrices, is the dominant paradigm. Or sara kaam artificial intelligence may to learn from the data is dependent on matrices. So let's start with linear algebra. You have to be really good at linear algebra. Linear algebra ke alawa, you have to be good at probability and statistics. Uski reason ye hai कि artificial intelligence program, when they learn from data, are non-deterministic, right? कि आप predict नहीं कर सकते हैं कि वो patterns जो है वो क्या exactly learn करते हैं. So you have to be familiar with probability and statistics. Number 2, linear algebra, probability and statistics. Number 3 will be a bit surprising. मैंने अपने first 30 years में calculus कभी use नहीं किया in my computer science journey. But in artificial intelligence, besides linear algebra, probability, and statistics, you need to be very good with multivariable calculus. उसकी reason ये है परवेज साहब के artificial intelligence, when it learns from the data, is all about optimization. और ऑप्टिमाइजेशन जो है वो पार्शियल डिफरेंशिएशन से चलती है, बहुत पुरानी चीज है, फिजिक्स में किसी भी फील्ड में ले लें. सो अगेन नेटिंग इट आउट फॉर द यंग पीपल हियर, लीनियर अलजेब्रा, प्रोबेबिलिटी एंड स्टैटिस्टिक्स, मल्टीवेरिएबल कैलकुलस, ये 3 पिलर्स हैं जिसके ऊपर जो है आपकी आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस नॉलेज विल बी वेरी वैल्यूएबल. द गुड न्यूज हियर, आप Pervez Saab, you were talking to me about 1978 Pakistan. What I remember about 1978 Pakistan very vividly कि यार कोई textbooks available नहीं थे, बहुत मुश्किल था. साइक्लोस्टाइल करते थे लोग textbooks को कि ताकि लोगों को access हो. The good news about what I said is that invest a little bit time in looking for the experts. सारे courses जो है totally free. You can learn linear algebra from Gilbert Strang at MIT, just as an example, and there is no better teacher today than that person, right? So these things can be learned at home. You just have to put the time and the effort and the discipline in getting good at it. Again, reiterating, the 3 pillars of artificial intelligence, if you want to get deep into it, is linear algebra, probability and statistics, and multivariable calculus. Dekhe yaar, let's do an experiment. Can you see the book? It's on my desk. This is the book I keep on my desk because I need to refer to it all the time. It sits on this table. Every day I'm looking through the pages and saying ki yaar, ye concept jo hai weak hai, I have to refresh it. You have an advantage. You can bookmark all the good video lectures and you can watch it, which is a little easier because the professor is trying his best to explain to you the concept. What is this concept about? Did I get the question, Pervez?
Rafiq, I can't tell you how happy you have made me. मेरा दिल इस वक्त मैं खुशी से बाग हो गया हूँ. I'll tell you why. Because the black hole has, if you go to the tabs up there, you'll see over the physics math lectures. There's a series over there on probability and statistics, which was put on this year. There's an earlier series on calculus. Linear algebra we haven't got to as yet, but linear algebra is simple stuff actually. It's really simple stuff, okay? Except when you get to a slightly higher level. But you know, the 2 participants over here who were listening to you, who were studying calculus from there. So I'm very happy that you talked about that. Okay, good. Do you have anything else to say before we open up for Q&A?
Yeah, देखो यार, artificial intelligence में 2 divisions हैं. We should get a little bit about it. One is learning from data, which is where you have to get good with linear algebra, multivariable calculus, probability, and statistics. You use frameworks called Keras and PyTorch. Then you use cloud architectures and you build the whole system. That's a steep curve, right? अब नई field जो निकली है, and every member of this audience, if you have the desire to spend 5 minutes time on it, कि GPT और चैट जीपीटी जैसे एनवायरनमेंट है. चैट जीपीटी इज नॉट द ओनली थिंग, इट्स कॉल्ड जनरेटिव एआई. जनरेटिव एआई के ऊपर एक टेक्नोलॉजी है जिसे कहते हैं प्रॉम्प्ट इंजीनियरिंग. The best way to describe prompt engineering is called programming in English. That is, you can ask the underlying system by giving it examples कि मुझे इस किस्म की summary चाहिए, मुझे इस किस्म की जो है वो questions and answers के pattern है. So in English, you can build the patterns. You can then give the patterns to the generative AI layer, and it does something remarkably useful. So हमारे जितने भी नौजवान हैं आज, people that have interest, take a course in prompt engineering. Prompt engineering. एक ही दिन में 4 घंटे में जो है वो आप फारिग हो जाएंगे. And in 4 hours, you will learn to harness the power of generative AI. Then you can start working with domain experts जो किसी process, किसी industry, किसी field में है, and you can apply generative AI there, right? So again, there are 2 different paths today. One is the steep path where you actually build this complex layers. It's very satisfying. It is very motivating. There's another path which is learning how to harness generative AI through prompt engineering. Please find that course on the internet. आपको 4-5 घंटे में you'll have hundreds and hundreds of examples as to how to teach generative AI to solve specific problems. It's called zero shot and many shot learning. ये buzzwords हैं, but essentially you use English to train generative AI to do something useful, and that's a very valid path. अगर मुझे छुट्टी मिला होता ना in intermediate or metric, what I would have done for a month or 2 is to just play with this generative AI and prompt engineering to see what applications can be built. Very useful thing to do.
And so you think with this 5-hour course, you can people over here can get some sort of thing to do on the internet, get a small job doing this or that? Is that the way it works?
So I will give you the safe answer. It's a very short learning curve that leads to some very useful things. How demand develops, how many jobs develop, we'll have to see. But the investment in time is so little and the payoff is so incredible that it is very worth doing it. Me personally, I think prompt engineering will create a whole new class of non-programmer programmers that take domain knowledge and do interesting things.
I see. So here it's your domain knowledge which gives you the edge.
Yes. Suppose, Pervez, again, keeping the narrative moving very quickly, you're an expert at the airport that is constantly handling lost baggage. Okay? आप सारे दिन उधर खड़े रह के लोगों की क्वेश्चंस आंसर करते हैं. You quickly figure out that the questions have a pattern. मेरी black bag थी, इसकी इतनी size थी, इस पे ये tag लगा हुआ था. With prompt engineering today, what used to take me a year to do, literally a year to do, you can write a prompt-based system that is very helpful in problem resolution. So you're taking your domain knowledge, you're taking generative AI, using prompt engineering, you're teaching generative AI to answer some questions very specifically, and that's a very useful application. So I am an optimist that generative AI will open up all these small application possibilities where people don't have engineers and expensive development time and things like that.
So it's a bit like saying that if I know a high-level language, let's say Fortran or PL1 or whatever, then I don't need to know machine language.
Exactly, Pervez Saab, exactly. Lekin, let's push you a little further. Fortran may be syntax, Hannah, right? You have to learn the go-to and you have to learn the column or language here, right? What prompt engineering, because it is based on English, reduces the complexity in expressing yourself pretty dramatically. That's why I recommend that every person should invest no more than 1 or 2 hours in learning prompt engineering. बहुत सारे beautiful courses हैं, and you can judge for yourself how useful it is.
Excellent, excellent. So now I think we are ready to open the floor to questions. I think there will be many. The request is that you not speak out of turn. When you get a mic to speak into, only then speak into that.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. And
Walaikum salam.
my question is that what do you think that will AI take over the world as it is growing further and further?
Very good question. We'll keep the answer short. देखो इसमें जो है ना दो opinions हैं. People are very worried about AI taking over the world and doing things. I am, as a practitioner, with people like Andrew Ng, आप उसके नाम देख लें, Andrew and Ng is spelled NG. ऐसे बहुत सारे लोग हैं that believe that, and Noam Chomsky included, that this AI right now, stripped of its hype, is still very primitive, and we are decades and decades away from what is called artificial general intelligence. Artificial general intelligence. So me, as a practitioner, I'm not worried about it at all. Humanity has had to learn how to deal with very powerful things like corporation, nation states, right? We dealt with it, we learned how to live with it, and we have continued our existence. AI today, for me, personally, I'm on another side of the debate that it is not a threat. In fact, climate change is the biggest threat that we face as humans, and AI helps us deal with it.
आपका लेक्चर बहुत फैसिनेटिंग था. मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि जैसे आपने बताया कि डोमेन एक्सपर्टीज़ पहला स्टेप है और सेकंड स्टेप ये है कि आप टेक्निकल नॉलेज लें, और फिर आपने थर्ड उसका बताया कि विद दिस जनरेटिव टेक्नोलॉजी आपको वो एज दे सकता है कि प्रॉम्प्ट इंजीनियरिंग के थ्रू आप समवे उसको बाईपास कर सकते हैं. मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है कि सर इवन हमें ये भी अगर पता चल जाता है तो एटलीस्ट हमने क्वेश्चन तो पूछना है, हमने पैटर्न्स को डिटेक्ट करने के लिए क्वेश्चंस तो पूछने हैं. और जिस माशरे में जहाँ पे क्वेश्चंस ना पूछे जाएं वहाँ पे वो फर्स्ट स्टेप ही नहीं आएगा जो हमें कंपेल करेगा कि हम प्रॉम्प्ट इंजीनियरिंग की तरफ जाए. तो आप क्या समझते हैं कि फ़िलासफ़ी जो एज अ सब्जेक्ट है उसकी ज़्यादा रेलेवेंस है फ्यूचर में, स्पेशली कि जो हमें जो नट्स एंड बोल्ट्स हैं और ये टेक्निक्स वगैरह हैं ये हम आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस के थ्रू अचीव कर सकते हैं, ये जनरेटिव इंटेलिजेंस के थ्रू अचीव कर सकते हैं?
ये बहुत ही टफ क्वेश्चन है, एंड अगर हमारे पास टाइम होता वन ऑन वन तो मैं आपके साथ इस मौजू पे जो है वो आई कुड इजीली टॉक टू यू बैक एंड फोर्थ फॉर अ लॉन्ग टाइम. देखें, एक चीज बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट है कि जब आप नॉलेज सीख करते हैं ना तो यू हैव टू बी प्रिपेयर्ड टू आंसर एंड आस्क द क्वेश्चंस, राइट? नॉलेज एक्विजिशन is particularly dependent on following a process where you're not afraid to ask the question and you're not afraid to learn from it, right? The scientific method, आपकी philosophy को मैं deepest way में answer करता हूँ. The scientific method, where you take data and publish your results where others can verify, is one of the crown jewels through which science has moved to its present stage. So openness, ability to pursue knowledge, where it takes, are all good ingredients, particularly if you want to be a data scientist. Data scientists are a बहुत ही अजीब चीज़ है यार. You have to leave your biases. You have to check your biases outside the door. You have to be prepared to say, this is the data and this is the story that the data is telling, whatever biases I may have or may not have. In fact, your biases can hinder you from becoming a good data scientist.
Hello, sir. My question is, if humans could give artificial intelligence general intelligence, why would they do it?
Yes, I hear you. Very good questions. Why would they do it? Yeah, yes. देखो यार, I'm just going for a light bit of humor. Most things in life are accidents, right? Knowledge emerges and then it takes very different paths. Most of the time, we don't try to answer precisely why. देखिए, अब एक चीज है, quantum mechanics में we have a full professor of physics here. Quantum mechanics में सबसे deepest mystery जो मुझे पता है, Pervez Sab knows a lot more, is quantum entanglement, right? बड़ी अजीब चीज है. It's an intelligent it's an intellectual curiosity. Quantum entanglement has been known for a long period of time, काफी decades हो गए where we have known about quantum entanglement. Pervez, right now, quantum entanglement is the basis for quantum computers, something that humanity discovered a long time ago, and now it's being used in a practical way. So most of the time, the path that humanity takes is full of opportunities, accidents, and needs, rather than very prescribed planning कि हमें ये करना है, ये करना है, ये करना है.
If I could add on to that, we had in this room an event in which we talked about Chandrayaan 3, and the question was, why go to the moon? What do you get out of it? And it's the same question as, why should you explore the Earth? Why was it necessary to establish that the Earth was round? Why was it necessary to establish that the Earth went around the sun and not vice versa? Today it is at the very basis of our existence. And similarly, exploring the limits of artificial intelligence, well, there's probably no limit to that, but this is something that we can't stop doing. It's intrinsic to us. Curiosity. By the way, there's a book which makes the contention that the reason science developed in Europe and not elsewhere, modern science, is because the Europeans were so very curious and other cultures at that time were not. I think it makes for very solid reasoning. The scientific revolution would not have taken off. The modern world today would not have been possible except for the fact that curiosity was actually encouraged in that society. Yeah.
So my question is, will artificial intelligence take away common jobs from human beings?
Thank you, Beta, for asking this question. It is a very, very appropriate question. जितने भी मैंने technology revolutions अपने life में देखा है ना, it causes displacement, and it causes great displacement. So there are very good papers available. आज हमने उसके बारे में discuss नहीं किया. That says the impact on jobs where the cognitive component is low will be tremendous. देखिए एक ज़माने में जब मैं अमेरिका आया था ना 1978, Paresh Saab may still remember it, the banks were full of what were called tellers. वो सारे लोग बैठे होते थे बैंक में, you'd go in and talk to a teller. All of that got replaced by ATM machines, right? अमेरिका में इस वक्त 4 million truck drivers हैं, 4 million truck drivers. There's some remarkable work being carried out that says that highway driving from point to point, AI, autonomous systems controlled by AI can do a lot better. So there will be lots of displacement and there will be lots of opportunities. It's a knowledge economy. You have to be aware of the displacements and you have to seek knowledge that allows you to find new opportunities. हमने prompt engineering के बारे में बात किया. We talked about data science. There's a worldwide shortage of data science. So humanity will constantly need to adapt, as these technologies become ever more powerful and eliminate jobs.
And let me ask a question in continuation of that. How do you think that education up to the high school level will be affected by AI coming into prominence? Will it be, do you think, substantially affected, or will the knowledge base required be more or less the same with or without AI?
I find all the questions interesting. This is again very interesting, thought-provoking question. देखें यार, सबसे बड़ी shortage थी मेरे ज़माने में when I was in studying for metric. The teachers were not very good in the physics and the chemistry and the math courses. और जो tutors हमने hire किए हुए थे, they were very expensive. Not all families could do that. One of the first things that I'm seeing that is very remarkable is that a whole bunch of companies using AI are developing individual personalized tutors, right? कि आपको questions देते हैं based on how you answer the question. It discovers कि आपकी concepts की clarity क्या है and how does it help you step by step at your own pace get better. So I think technology will influence education, particularly in individual coaching a lot. On the other hand, the hunger that Pervez, you and I used to feel about knowledge, that portion of the equation will not be changed. So you have to have the desire, the discipline, and the ambition to seek knowledge. That component stays the same, but the delivery of content, the coaching, the pace at which you learn, all of that can be influenced by technology in a pretty big way.
And the content will remain very similar to what exists presently, I think.
Let's have a small mathematician joke. यार मुझे पता नहीं है प्रवेश साहब के eigenvalue, eigenvectors कैसे change होंगे. It will remain the same in linear algebra no matter what happens, right? It's just that the examples will get a lot better.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I have two parts of question. Number one, keeping a scenario in Pakistan, the collection of data is very important. And we can see there are challenges to it when we talk about data and translating into AI code. That's the first part. How do you see this challenge and how we can overcome that challenge? And number two, how do you bring empathy to these AI codes of lines and programs? How far are we bringing sympathy or empathy to these programs which can reflect like a human to us?
Yeah, so data collection is a very sensitive part. Very quickly, data collection is a very sensitive process. Europe is the leader in anonymization of data. So when you want to collect large amounts of data, you have to have very strong regulation कि उस data को आप किस तरह anonymize करते हैं, and that makes it easy for people to contribute data, right? So data collection and anonymization and privacy protection are all linked together. Today, the largest data sets for facial recognition and other things comes from China because their data collection process, they may or may not be sensitive to privacy or governance on the data. But the largest data sets, for instance, are in China, which gives their companies a great advantage. So Pakistan will need policies as to how data is collected, anonymized, and protected, number one. Number two, in terms of the ghost in the machine, right? Ghost in the machine is what we call empathy, feelings, sentiment, awareness, consciousness, right? Isko aap jo hai, it's not as easy to say, I understand the neuron in the brain and this leads to consciousness. So my gentle answer is that I don't know how to do that at all. And from what I read, Noam Chomsky being just one example, we still are a ways away from understanding the magnificent thing called the human brain. And we will need to get a lot deeper there before we can take these concepts and make a program self-aware.
G.
Thank you. I'd like to ask two questions, if that's okay. First of all, again, I'd like to go back into the jobs thing. You mentioned how, again, like, of course, with every major revolution, we have a great displacement of jobs. We have the Industrial Revolution, Technological Revolution, etc. But again, it opened new fields for jobs. With AI, what really concerns me is that AI, again, the way we're seeing it going, it can supposedly, at least eventually, maybe do everything a human could possibly do. At least things that we previously thought weren't possible. It's able to do creative things, such as maybe songwriting, or again, as we were talking about generative AI, generating pictures, generating stories. Like recently, a major point of contention in the SAG-AFTRA strikes has been that now they're saying they could just get their scripts written by AI. So what domains do you think that AI could possibly open, new domains in jobs? Because everyone I keep talking to says that AI will also open new domains. But what sort of new domains could AI open? Second of all, you mentioned...
I think let him answer that.
Sorry.
Go to the second. Yeah.
No. I was just interested in answering the question. Beautiful question. What domains could AI open, right? Very simple question. मैंने आपको बताया कि बहुत सारे companies, they collect a lot of data and they're not able to do anything with the data because the cost of writing AI programs the traditional way is tens of millions of dollars, right? मैंने आपको example दिया of a company that distributes concrete in Karachi. That's a real example, learning how to do optimization. So the first domain that AI opens up is that any business that collects the data should be able to then answer the question, how do I profit from the data? How do I use this data to deliver better goods, better services, better margins for the business, right? And so that's an example of AI helping businesses get more efficient, right? There are many, many, many other new domains that will open up. For instance, एक ज़माने में जो है वो workers used to work in the factory on the actual machines. There are many lights out factories now where the machines are highly automated, but they still need sophisticated technicians that do the monitoring and the quality control and all the rest of the stuff. So it's like a pyramid, right? At the bottom, the muscle power got replaced by machines. The low cognition stuff will get replaced by the AI programs of today. And what it'll allow us to do is to come up with new business models that would have been impossible 10 years ago. Like I just gave you an example that we were maintaining hundreds and hundreds of millions of documents without being able to read it. Once the documents can be analyzed, there's all sorts of new advisory practices that law firms can open up for their clients as a result of being able to introspect that document. Say, ये आपने जो है contract बनाया, this is now out of date, and there are better ways of protecting your company, and here are some new services that we can sell you. So you have to use your creativity and imagination to see where the possibilities are.
Okay, thank you. The second question was, you mentioned previously working with Keras and PyTorch. So this, you might have already answered the question here, but there's kind of a big debate about PyTorch versus TensorFlow. So do you have a preference towards one or the other, or do you think it's based on different domains?
It's so, I'm going to disappoint my mentor, Professor Pervez. I love PyTorch. You know why I love that?
Why?
It is open source, ma'am. It's open source. किसी की वो चीज नहीं है यार. आप जब TensorFlow use करते हैं ना, you don't know when Google will decide to support it or not support it. PyTorch आपका है, मेरा है, Pervez Bhai का है. Everybody owns PyTorch in this room, and that's its beauty. So yeah, I spend all my time coding in PyTorch because I like the idea that I'm using community property to do something good.
Good to know. Thank you.
Thanks. Basically, do you think that humans will become machines? Like now we are using chips in our brains. So do you think that humans will become superhuman with the use of AI?
So this question of yours is again absolutely fantastic. It's called augmentation. How can we augment human beings? And that's a possibility. देखो यार, एक चीज मैं, one of the things that I read all the time is how warfare, the nature of warfare is changing, right? जिस ज़माने में आप Massachusetts में थे, the protests is what ended the Vietnam War. The mothers were no longer willing to sacrifice their kids. But warfare now increasingly will be waged by autonomous systems, and these autonomous systems will be augmentation of just a few people. एक आदमी बैठा हुआ है, 100 drones fly कर रहा है, that one person is giving the final policy decision कि क्या करें drone से. So human augmentation will be on steroids, and that's dark side. होता ये है हमारी civilization में कि when power is accumulated, the exercise of power is not very responsible. That's the only thing I've learned by reading history again and again and again, that the exercise of power is very problematic. And augmentation will happen. Augmentation will give leverage, and the exercise of that leverage or that power will be one of the things and the challenges that humanity will face.
Are we talking about machines creating new patterns, or just analyzing and mixing and matching up new mixing and matching patterns to create somewhat new patterns? And second, I wanted to ask, what is your opinion that should we restrict the flow of how many users get to use AI as AI's availability increases and its potential also increases? Like we talked about, AI might end humanity through destroying humanity, but what about humanity destroying itself through AI? I mean, we've already done that multiple times. Let's
Okay,
be
so
honest.
let's get to your first question first. Machine learning, what is it?
Machine learning is, simply put, that's the term I use all the time, so I'm glad it came up at the end of this conversation. Machine learning is a set of models that looks at data, generalizes the learning from that data, builds a function, a useful function, and then when new data comes, that function then helps you make predictions, right? So machine learning is about a model, choosing a model, and there are many models, neural networks, linear regression, on and on and on. So you choose a model that is powerful enough to learn from the data. That learning is expressed as a function. New data arrives, you give it to that function, and it then does something useful. It does a prediction, which is valuable. Recognizing an image, for instance, figuring out whether this bank loan should be approved or not, right? So machine learning is analysis of data by a model that converts the model into a useful function that can then be applied on new data to do something useful, interesting.
I think we'll skip your second question, but you can go on to your third.
No, I want to add on to that. When you said that it depends on the database, does the AI create new patterns or new data essentially to use? I mean, when we talk about image recognition, it recognizes the water bottle because it's seen images of water bottle. So if I create if I create a completely new water bottle, will it be able to recognize it? Because it recognizes
Yes.
water bottles based on their traits, it identifies on their patterns. So if I were to create a new one, which does not follow any patterns, will still be able to recognize it.
Within reason, but it would be wonderful if I could again have access to a board and a chalk, and we could go into much deeper. But the answer is yes. That learning is very sophisticated, where some of the things that learning that we do, the word that is applied is called emergent. Look up the word emergent. That is, the pattern recognition is not just a dumb pattern recognition. It is extremely sophisticated, and it surprises all the time as to the additional capabilities it has deduced from the data that we have given it, right? But sometimes it learns the wrong thing. That can be a different conversation. It can learn something very, very wrong, very, very harmful. So you have to pay a lot of attention on, what is the nature of the learning? What is the kind of prediction that they are making? What are the biases in the prediction? And are the biases harmful?
I think the example that you may have wanted to give was, I won't give it. Okay, I will give it. Face recognition. Dark faces of American blacks were put before a facial recognition AI program, and this program, with some small change, said these are gorillas. Now that was shocking. It was racist.
Yes.
It's a matter of big discussion in the AI community, that how do you stop this kind of racism, outright racism? And this is maybe not such a, since this doesn't have consequences, we can let it go. But in the future, when something has consequences, then that could be extremely harmful.
Extremely harmful. And again, keeping the narrative short here, we're running out of time. Pervez, the biggest problem I've seen is in parole sentencing programs. The parole sentencing programs, when they have biases, will severely punish minority communities.
Yes.
Okay. My name is Arif and I teach computer science. I am just fascinated by what you mentioned is that you still code. So I'm just curious that what do you work on? Because our students typically, when we teach them coding, they are afraid of this thought that they will have to code for the rest of their life. And just by listening to you, I assume that you are 63 years old and still coding. So that is the basis
Yeah.
of my curiosity. Thank you.
So, very good question. And I became a computer scientist only because in my first year in college, I discovered that coding was something that I enjoyed tremendously, right? So, what do I code these days? I learned something called graph neural networks. Graph neural networks. It's a very interesting way of taking a network and feeding it into a neural network, a graph into a neural network, and drawing deductions on it. It's a fairly decent new field with great applications like protein folding, which is a very important endeavor in science. So once I learned something, I find the art of coding clarifies my own concepts tremendously, and that's why I code. And बाकी और बुढ़ापे में क्या करेंगे यार, कुछ ना कुछ तो करना होगा, right? So coding for me is a perfectly good way to enjoy my retirement.
Assalamu alaikum, Rafiq sahab. First of all, amazing time with you here. मेरी जर्नी थोड़ी सी आपसे रिलाई करती है co-founding a company at 23, I'm 22, co-founded it at 21. So I'm a student of AI. I'm based in Islamabad. Or the products that we're working on are very much based on the innovation economy. We're doing things with AI augmenting into AR, AI augmenting into VR, and then conversational AI augmenting into VR as well. So I wanted to ask, Pakistan is a service-based economy, right? What policies or
Yes.
paradigm shifts do we require in Pakistan to become an innovation hub? कि मेरे जैसे startups जो कि baseline problems नहीं solve कर रहे लेकिन AI से कोई नई चीज़ें बना रहे हैं. Things that are very innovative, they are scientific and they are mathematical. But we're building them and we want to release them. जो कि हमारी policies do not really support them. So what do you think, what paradigm shift does our region need to support innovation?
Very good, very good. Thank you for asking this question. Thank you for coming here today. देखें, आप जो है ना एक मेरे लिए homework करें आज when you get home. Go home and look at how Taiwan built its semiconductor industry starting in 1969, 68, right? And you will find all the details in a book called Chip Wars, right? So Taiwan today, TSMC, for instance, is getting ready to build chips at 2 nanometers, which will make it the most sophisticated manufacturing in the entire world. So they had a very deliberate policy, right? The policy has many components, okay? The first component is resources. यानी कि आपको downstream education में you have to spend money, right? You cannot build just universities. By the time a kid is in the 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, you have to invest in that kid. So we need a policy that says Pakistan will be an exporter of intellectual resources. That's the main thing. That Pakistan will be a provider of intellect to the world. Great mission statement. Then you develop an entire business plan around it, that this is the structure of education that we need to invest in. You're not going to get there in one day. You have to have a 10, 15-year vision. Then you have to incubate companies, you have to provide credit facility, you have to make sure that the copyright laws and the contract laws are such that companies cannot be robbed of their intellectual property. So it's a multifaceted problem, but it starts with an ambition, with a clear goal, with a clear objective, and then below it, you need a policy structure that looks at the entire pipeline to get to where you want to be. Okay.
I think we will, okay, let this be the last question.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Oh my goodness, there are so many questions. So let's have 3 questions only. And quick questions, quick answers.
So I had three questions, but I will only ask one.
One.
So okay. So the main question related to the topic is that you told that AI basically works on that data, that we provide data, we provide prompt engineering, that it's give us an answer. What if we do not provide any data and it works on itself? It thinks for itself and it finds some answer, because I think that's more dangerous and somehow useful. For example, if we do not we cannot prove something, so we give AI a task and it thinks for itself and finds a way to prove it. So is that something AI can do? Thank you.
But you must
Now,
give it a task.
very quick answer.
Obviously.
Very quick answer, not today. For instance, again, giving you a simple example, factorization, prime factorization is a problem that we don't know whether a number is prime or not. We cannot answer that today. All encryption is based on the fact that we cannot take a large number and say, is it a prime number or not? You can give that to AI and it will make up some silly answer. So the technology today at this stage is not general intelligence. It cannot think through problems for which no answers exist. It can find innovative patterns, as somebody had asked before, but not to the point where it is making breakthroughs and coming up with entire mathematical theorems that we have never thought about.
You can do theorem proving, but those theorems aren't very important. They're not something that...
Exactly. And
it's not like Fermat's last theorem, which is so totally profound, which was discovered by some computer. It cannot be. I'm not saying it cannot be.
Exactly.
It is not the case presently. Next.
Sir, my name is Yasir Manzoor. My question is related to more of the employment opportunities through AI. So you have given a very wonderful suggestion for students to learn calculus, linear algebra, etc. But in Pakistan, these all students will go into the development phase. And for the last 75 years, we did not produce any unicorn of excellence like you have built in US. And जैसे डॉक्टर साहब ने एक rightly pointed out कि dark skin वाले लोगों के जो initiatives होते हैं वो इतने productive नहीं हैं. So my question is, how can you suggest the students over here कि उन्हें क्या सीखना चाहिए for AI to not stay on the top of the AI value chain but be part of the value chain, और जैसे वो like freelancers वगैरह या उनके लिए any application or something like that which they can learn and then bring some dollars back home?
देखो यार, this is a very valid question. It depends upon the nature of ambition. जब मैं 16 or 17 years का था, I had a burning ambition to be really good at electronics, right? And I would not have settled for the fact that my destiny would somehow be less than somebody else's. अब जो है मेरे ज़माने में the only way for people to participate in companies was to be at a specific geographical location. That barrier has ended. आपको पता है कि इंडिया की एक्सपोर्ट्स क्या है सॉफ्टवेयर इंडस्ट्री में? $180 billion, growing at 5 to 6% a year. मेरे कंपनी में जो chief architect है is a Pakistani. So we can prove the theorem that Pakistanis are as creative as anybody else in the world, right? So why not be ambitious and take our Naujawan and our young people and build a partnership where these people can remotely participate in the worldwide shortage. अगर आप आज Germany के newspapers पढ़ें ना, what are they talking about? The shortage of people to do the most creative things in the industry, particularly in software and in AI. And the German government is now spending billions and billions of dollars revamping AI. Because we can remotely participate, Pakistan has a very interesting future if it chooses to provide intellectual capacity to companies that need it. We can provide labor, we can do light manufacturing, we can do cotton exports, but let's not stop there. Pakistani intellectuals can integrate themselves into the global economy and do something very meaningful. देखें आज जो chip packaging की industry का center, when the chip is finally packaged, is Malaysia. When an IC integrated circuit is finally packaged, the leaders in doing that, the center of attention for that industry is Malaysia, right? And so it depends on our ambition. My hope is that our country is extremely talented, and if we so choose to, we can integrate ourselves into the knowledge economy that now doesn't have a geographical location, but ideas and contributions flow seamlessly everywhere.
The final question.
Okay, sir. Sir, I was listening to a former CEO of Google, and in a program when he was asked about minimizing the speed at which we are developing artificial intelligence models in order to mitigate the potential dangers or problems that it might pose for us in near future, his answer was absolutely not. And he said that because at that time America is at a better footage than China, and if we minimize the pace, China will have a chance to develop these models on authoritarian values. And he was saying that we want to build these models on these liberal values. I didn't understand his point. And my second question is, how could we incorporate these values into these models? And is this something we should be wary of? Thank you.
Yes, so in the interest of time, I'll short circuit the answer a little bit. If somebody tells me that I'm building a program with liberal values, my eyes are going to roll. Okay, that's not something as a practitioner I find very interesting. What I can suggest to you very practically is that the data that you are using for training, should not have biases in it. Otherwise, the model will learn the biases. Okay. For instance, if in the loan approval program at the State Bank of Pakistan, making up an example, you put in the race of the person applying the loan. I'm now asking you the question, is it a good thing or a bad thing? For me, it is a terrible thing, because when the model learns it, it will somehow conclude that one particular race is better than other at paying the loan. Do you want that side effect in the program, right? So guard against the biases in the data, and that is done by scrubbing the data, by analyzing the results, by putting it into production in small stages, so that the underlying inferences that the model reaches is free of biases. We cannot stop science, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot stop science. American government may have any policy it wants to, whether AI should be developed on liberal or non-liberal or whatever. जब मैं code लिखता हूँ घर पे, I'm free to do whatever I want, right? And so I don't think science can be bottled up or regulated. I think the Chinese data scientists are just as ethically conscious as the American ones. I deal with plenty of them, and they do understand that the biases in the data are terrible things to have in terms of the model. Baidu and Tencent, these are major Chinese corporations that do really good AI. So again, let's leave the liberal, conservative China, America foreign policy aside. Let's make sure that the data that is used to train the model does not lead to conclusions that are biased in such a way that it hurts people in a very measurable way. That should be your litmus test.
Rafiq, I think we've reached the end of our time. लेकिन इधर से सिफारिश आई है, which can't be ignored. So this absolute last final question.
I absolutely apologize for the extra question. I'm so sorry. But I was curious that, you know, there are a lot of talented people in this country, as you mentioned before, but due to the leadership that is very corrupt in Pakistan, do you think that Pakistan has a future in AI and can develop?
Very good question, Pervez. It requires a minute to answer it. You are not very far from my daughter's age, And I applaud you coming to the conference. I applaud you asking the question. It's a beautiful question. Let me leave you with an example that you can reflect on because it's more important than my answer. देखो World War II के बाद जो है ना, and there are people here that can tell you the history. After World War II, Japan was completely destroyed. Those cities उनके जो है वो were bombed with atomic weapons. And there were other fire bombings in places like Tokyo, where in a single night over 100,000 people died. You cannot even imagine the horrors. 1964 was Olympics, right? It was the Tokyo Olympics. In 20 years, in just 20 years, Japan was back on its foot, doing incredible things. So yeah, the corruption in the country is very problematic. But I also leave you with hope that progress can be non-linear. That is, when we decide that these are the goals and when we are prepared to sacrifice and be ambitious about it, you can achieve progress in remarkably short periods of time. So we face the problem of corruption in a big way, but we also live in a knowledge economy where individuals can acquire knowledge outside of state institutions in a very meaningful way and integrate themselves into the knowledge economy. So there's both hope as well as there is the problem that we deal with, that the policymakers don't seem to represent the interest of the broader public.
Rafiq, there's a lot of dissatisfaction here. People are saying they want to ask still more questions. Do you have another 5 more minutes?
Pervez, my next appointment is at 6:30 p.m. So I'm turning over my time to you.
Okay. So I think this is it. Thank you very much, Rafiq. We really
No, 6:30
it.
Chicago. It's only 10 a.m. here, so I can answer more questions if you so choose.
ठीक तो फिर पूछिए. हाँ, okay.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. Although I'm completely naive about the artificial intelligence since my background is of international relations, but it's the curiosity that brought me here. Well, there are many new concepts that I learned today. I'd like to ask you that what intrigued you the most about becoming a data scientist, and what were the challenges that you went through during having an expertise or having a grip in this field? Thank you.
Very, very nice question. Very quick answer. I was an applied mathematician by ambition, right? I enjoyed mathematics more than anything else. My favorite course was differential equations, right? लेकिन applied mathematician job कहाँ मिलेगा, green card कैसे मिलेगा? So I became a computer scientist, built a decent life, had children, married, had children, supported my parents, all the things that a normal human being faces in their life. Then as we started collecting more and more documents, I kept reading in the newspapers and the periodicals that natural language could be analyzed. And so that was the ambition for me to return back to my roots as an aspiring applied mathematician, and that's what I did.
So my next question is that the human brain is very complex, and the main factor of the human brain is common sense. So does artificial intelligence have the capabilities to understand common sense?
Not yet. The short answer is not yet. Okay. Again, I encourage the Black Hole Institute to have another talk which says, is morality and language deeply baked into the design of our brain? It's a fascinating topic, that how our brain has evolved as morality and language processing is an intrinsic part of our evolution. And my suspicion at this stage is yes, and we're very far away from this concept where a computer program becomes self-aware.
IQ मेजर होती है ह्यूमन की इंटेलिजेंस को मेजर करने के लिए, और क्या कंप्यूटर खुद अपनी इंटेलिजेंस को मेजर करने के लिए कुछ बनाएगा, या ह्यूमन ही उसकी इंटेलिजेंस को मेजर करने के लिए कोई ना कुछ ऑप्शन बनाने हैं?
So I simply don't understand the question. Pervez Bhai, are you able to translate the question for me?
What would be a measure of computer intelligence? We have IQ tests for humans. What's a test for computer intelligence?
Very, very contextual answer देखें भाई IQ test is frowned on. अगर आप Amazon forest में एक बच्चे को IQ test देना तो वो fail हो जाएगा. लेकिन he may know several hundred species of rainforest plants and what their impact is on human beings, right? So we know now that IQ test is very, very contextual. So the value of a computer AI in terms of IQ is its ability within a context to generate good results. So देखें image recognition में आजकल जो है accuracy compared to humans is almost 99%. So whenever you talk about IQ, you have to define a context, you have to define a benchmark, then you have to measure in a very effective way, a neutral way, what your performance on the benchmark is. So again, when you think of computer IQ, always think of a context, and within that context, ask the question, is it useful? Is it doing the right thing? Right? आप GPS use करते हैं. The answer for question for you is very simple. Is the GPS giving me bogus instructions or good instructions? That same thing can be applied to AI programs. In this context, is it generating good results or bad results?
My question is not that much scientific. I want to ask, there are a lot of AI platforms where we can talk to AIs. And I think that it has just filled the void created by loneliness. And I want to ask, could it, AI would affect socialization? As Harari has said that AI has hacked our civilization. And do we really need socialization in the world of AI? Thank you.
So I cannot ever answer the question, do we really need, because remember I said most things happen by accidents, and we are not traffic cops directing the progress of humanity. It just seems to evolve, right? The short answer I can give you is that as a conversationalist, AI will evolve where it will pass the Turing test if it has not already passed it. You won't be able to tell very easily that it is AI. So lonely people, like in Japan, they are making robots that talk to old people because that is the country that is at the front line of population aging. They simply don't have enough young people. And their robots are considered a complementary part of well-being for older people. So depends upon how it is used.
Assalamu alaikum. Sir, I had one more question. That आपने जो है आप यहाँ से उधर काफ़ी एक अच्छे टाइम में गोल्डन टाइम में चले गए यूएस में. आपने वहाँ पे जाके 4 years में काफ़ी अपना कुछ सीखा और उसी बाद वहीं पे आपने इन्वेस्ट करके अपनी कंपनी बनाई. सो इफ़ I would think that it was a very golden time and it was a great opportunity that you got, and now you are in the Silicon Valley. So someone of my age who is studying here at FAST, साइबर सिक्योरिटी में पढ़ रहा हूँ, तो मेरा भी इंटरेस्ट है कि बाहर जाके बंदा ऐसा कोई बिज़नेस खोले जो कि सिलिकॉन वैली में एक ज़माने में जाए. तो उसके लिए क्या टिप्स होंगी, क्या किस पेस पे बंदे को चलना पड़ता है, उसके बारे में आप थोड़ा कुछ हेल्प करें.
Yeah, देखिए जनाब, I cannot give you any recipe कि आप ये 3 या 4 चीज़ें करें तो इसकी ये result होगा, because the world is complicated and the barriers to entry in countries have gone up quite a bit. लेकिन don't forget, जिस ज़माने में मैं NED में था, 80% of the teachers were government appointed. Okay, अगर आप उनको कहेंगे horse power क्या है, तो वो कहेंगे sir, you're asking me a biological term, right? बिल्कुल ही बर्बाद standard, right? I had to flee because the standard was not very good at all, and then Operation Paya Jam की वजह से schools बंद हो गए थे. You add these two, and I was reduced to playing gilli danda on Jubilee Road. You have opportunities, sir. You have opportunities. The best minds in the world, Gilbert Strang at MIT, if you're in liberal arts, there are other people. You can acquire knowledge in a way that was never possible for me. Here's the challenge, I'll tell you. It's not possible to trade lives. That's a fool's errand. But I would love to be an 18-year-old where my mother was making chai and chapati every day, and I could have 6 or 7 hours worth of learning time with the best human beings in the entire world. You, sir, have that opportunity. Grab it with both hands, and inshallah, your destiny will unfold in its own way. It won't be like mine, but yours will be, what you make of it. So acquire knowledge. It doesn't have to be AI or anything like that. It can be anything that you are interested in. Become the best at it. You have that opportunity today. You can go home and invest your time this particular evening. देखिए सलमान खान का साइट बांग्लादेशी आदमी है सलमान खान Academy. उसके अंदर यार 2000 lectures है 2000 lectures and 2000 is obsolete. वो तो मैं पहले देखा था. And I used to learn from it all the time, right? मुझे कोई चीज याद नहीं है. I'd go to Khan Academy, find the lecture in 9, 10, 11, 12 minutes. It would be a refresher, right? And so today is a magic existence in terms of the acquisition of knowledge, and that will take you very, very far. But you have to have purity. कि इस field में मुझे ये interest है, and I'm going to spend the time and the effort to be really good at it. If you do that, I'm sure that there will be pathways open to you that are truly yours.
That was a brilliant answer.
भाई साहब एक बहुत clarity है. मैं Silicon Valley में रहता नहीं हूँ, and I find that a very boring place where everybody is doing exactly the same thing.
Okay, so I think we're now at the end. Rafiq, that was brilliant. We really enjoyed your presentation.
Thank you very much.
And
Thank
we
you for the
hope to see
opportunity.
you physically here in the near future.
Inshallah. Inshallah.
Good. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
Allah Hafiz. See you all later. Bye.